know what is crazy? We didn't have to deal with social media growing up, right?
So yeah, I actually do know the creator of this post. So you guys should watch the full thing, especially if you're a parent. She has some really good tricks on monitoring what her kid like can watch and stuff like that. But yeah, I was just thinking about this too, so that's why I stitched it. I was thinking about how lucky I was to be an '80s baby. We didn't have we're from an age where we had half of access to the world and half of the ability to gain it the long way, if that makes any sense. Like, libraries were important when I was growing up. Um, Encyclopedias were a big deal. Like, if you had an encyclopedia set in your house, you were that person. Like, people would ask their parents if they could come over and use your encyclopedia for school. My mom spent so much money on getting a whole encyclopedia set just to make sure I had access to information. That's how detached we were. And when we got the internet, you had to wait a whole 25 minutes for that thing to warm up, boy, and you didn't even have the access that these people have now. Children now have access to too much imagery, too many false narratives. And when you learn that the people that actually created these platforms do not let their own children have access to the platforms they created, you will understand why it is necessary for you to not let your children be on social media. Because it is why we see such an increase in suicide in children and mental health going just plummeting. And what she's talking about is like how she just like realized like we didn't have that. We didn't have access to that. We had pressures about grades and maybe being good in sports, but like the everyday physical false narratives of a perfect face, perfect body, cars, homes, things that we are all being fed every day that is completely like total lies, just smoke and mirrors, just Hollywood on a small scale. We didn't have that. And I remember as a little girl, the one thing that I tried to avoid because I realized as a little girl that it made me feel bad about myself was going to the magazine aisle. So back in the day, going to the magazine aisle was the only way you could get photos of artists that you like, because there was like, there was magazines for every type of genre of music. And in those magazines, you could get like 8 by 10 pictures of all your artists. And if you were anything like me, you would have like a whole wallpaper of your artists on the wall, which at that time was immature. Don't judge me. And we would go to the magazine aisle. You would find a magazine that you liked. And you really went there to find your artist, right? The person you had a crush on. But in the midst of that, you had Vogue and Vanity Fair and Essence. And in Essence, mind you, was the only black beauty magazine. So as a little black girl, you're bombarded by Harper's Bazaar and every other white face you can imagine. And you don't see anybody that looks like you. And this is for black folks. We're not talking about Asian kids and Indian kids, any kids of any other race. I mean, there was a few Mexican magazines, that Selena dominated. But so just imagine any little girl of color. You go to these magazine aisles and all you see, there's no Filipino magazines. You know what I'm saying? You didn't see anybody but all these white, skinny models. And at the time, this was Kate Moss days. This was Naomi Campbell stepping. This is when Tyra Banks was coming up, and they called this girl fat. And she was like a 4 or 6. Okay? So you were constantly inundated with these faces, these pale, emaciated faces as what beauty was. And I remember being distracted and looking at these images of these women and being reminded I don't look like these women. And then even looking at Naomi Campbell and being like, well, she's black, but she was frail, And I remember it messing with me so much. And this was like 5th, 6th grade. That at some point I would try to just go in and focus just on the magazines that I wanted. and like leave. Like I wouldn't even let myself look at the other magazines because I didn't want to feel bad about myself. And then it got to a total point to where I just stopped going to the magazine aisle, period. That's how much an aisle in a supermarket fucked with my self-esteem. So imagine what kids deal with every day. Every time they pick up their phone, they are in the magazine aisle. Every time they open their computer to do research or play a little game or something, there's something that's in the magazine aisle. And the difference, I will say, is that these people aren't even real. They're propagating this, fake ass reality when all of them are living worse than us or sometimes just like us. So imagine that every time your kid touches a device, they are in the magazine aisle. They are one step closer to not loving themselves, not valuing themselves, not seeing themselves as the true beauties that they truly are. It's a cold world out here. And it breaks my heart for kids that have to grow up today. It really, really does. So parents, we just gotta, and aunties too, because I tell my kids, now fuck that, you the bomb, okay? I big up all of my kids, even the kids that I work with sometimes. Like I don't care. I'm not. No. We ain't, not on my watch. Okay, hold the line. Okay. But it's hard today in this world. So yeah, that was a really great thing to talk about today, Danielle. And like I'm not even a parent, but I've worked with kids and I see how this affects them every day.